Hey, welcome back to How to Barbecue Right. I'm Malcolm Reed. It's fantasy football draft day here for me. That means I'm doing a ton of cooking. I've got some ribs, tri-tip, pork tenderloin, meatballs, a whole bunch of other great stuff. I'm gonna show y'all how I do fantasy football draft. Let's get to cooking. So first on deck, I'm cooking ribs. I started with some whole spare ribs, broke them down into St. Louis cut, seasoned them up my way. That meant AP, little The Barbecue rub. I've got the Outlaw pit fired up. It's running about 275, got some good pecan wood on it, and it's ready for the ribs. So I'm just gonna get them on the rack here, position them straight, and I think on this Outlaw, I'm gonna be able to run all 4 racks right across. So the ribs are gonna take the longest to cook. It's gonna be a couple hours here on the Outlaw in the smoke. Gonna get them wrapped. Then it'll be time to get those off, let them rest a little bit while I cook the tri-tip and the pork tenderloin. So I left the ribs on the smoker for 2 hours so they get that beautiful mahogany color over the top of them. Then it was time to wrap them. Started with some brown sugar, some parquet, some honey, and some vinegar sauce. Got it on both sides, wrapped them up, let them go about an hour and 15 minutes in the wrap. Still at 275 on the Outlaw. Now it's time to check the ribs for doneness. I'm just gonna do it right here on the pit. I want to see some drawback. I want to see some disintegration. I'm saying these ribs are done before I even check them, but I'm just gonna verify. I want to see them hit 202. Hey, this rack here is done. So the draft's not for a couple more hours. That means I'm gonna hold the ribs. And I've just got one of these little cheap party stacker coolers, picked it up at the local Walmart. I'm gonna drop the ribs down in here as they get done. Since I'm only doing 4 racks, I'm gonna check every one of them. Disintegration, bone pullback, verify, 202. Just gonna put the lid on the party stacker, let these ribs hang out. You don't have to take them inside, just let them sit on the counter to get a nice rest. Now it's time for some reverse sear on the tri-tip and pork tenderloin. Now for these tri-tips, we did a real quick trim on them, taking off any excess fat, all that sinew. I seasoned them with some Mississippi Grind by Swine Life and a little of my TX for texture. They're going right on the Outlaw pit, still running at 275 degrees. You can see I let that seasoning kind of sweat in on these tri-tip. I wanted to bring them up to temp slow. So we're gonna put them on there like we did the ribs. And I'm just gonna watch the internal temperature on them. I want them to come up to about 115 to 118 degrees internal. And then we're gonna take them off, throw them on a real hot grill grate on my Weber kettle. We're gonna put some sear marks on them. That's gonna finish them off. Same thing's gonna happen to these pork tenderloins. We did a little trim on them to take off any sinew, season them with my jam and jerk seasoning because these are gonna be pork tenderloin jerk sliders. We wanna get a reverse sear on them as well. So I'm just gonna put them on right beside these tri-tips. It's gonna take about 30 minutes at 275. I'm gonna watch the internals close, then we'll come back and we'll sear them up. So while the tri-tips come up to temperature nice and slow on the Outlaw, I'm firing up my Weber for the hard sear. I'm using some Royal Oak charcoal, bring the Weber up to about 500 degrees. It's gonna be perfect for searing. The tri-tips hit about 122 internal. That means the reverse part's over. Now it's time for the sear action on the back end. We're gonna do them one at a time. I've got my grill grates nice and hot. You can see them smoking. I hit them with a little bit of cooking spray. We're just gonna go meat down, right on there. I want that sizzle. I'm gonna go 2 minutes. We're gonna give it a twist. We're gonna flip it and do the same thing. They'll be perfect about medium rare. All right, it's been 2 minutes. Pick our tri-tip up, give it a little twist action, turn it back down. Still searing. All right, it's time to flip our tri-tip. See what kind of sear we got going. Looks beautiful. That's what I wanted to see. We're gonna do the same thing. 2 minutes, 2 minutes. It'll be right where I want it. Time to do the rest of them. So for these pork tenderloins, I brought them up slow on the Outlaw grill. When I saw about 130, 133, that's when I took them off the reverse part. I hit the tenderloins with my jerk sauce and then put them right on these grill grates. 2 minutes each side just to get some char on them. That's where we're at. We're at about 145 internal and I'm getting them off. Then it's time to glaze the ribs. I let those ribs rest for an hour and a half while I knocked out the tri-tip and the jerk tenderloin. So now it's time to glaze the ribs. I hit them with the 50-50 blend of the barbecue sauce and vinegar sauce. Backside first, flipped them over, light dusting of the barbecue rub, and then the same sauce on the top. They went on the Outlaw for about 10-15 minutes to set the sauce. Check these ribs out. Those things are beautiful. I can't wait to eat one. I may not have cooked enough. Now it's time to get them off, get them wrapped up in the cooler, and then we're headed to the draft. All the meat's in the cooler. It's time to go draft. I spent all morning cooking this food for the draft. Now it's time to get it set up for serving. First thing I'm gonna do is cut the ribs up into single bone sections. We're gonna lay them out on a cutting board, and that's how I'm presenting them today. For the tri-tip, we're just slicing it thin, serving it with the chimichurri sauce and the horseradish cream sauce. Now, the jerk tenderloin is my take on my jerk mon burger. I just cooked the tenderloins and sliced them really thin. We put some calypso sauce on a slider bun, piled it up with the jerk tenderloin, a little bit more jerk sauce, and the pineapple relish on top. It makes a perfect little slider. And the last thing I'm putting together is a big meat board. I've got a bunch of different cured sausages, some cheese, some pepperoncinis, olives, pickles, all the good stuff going on a cutting board. And hey, I'm ready to dig in. I know all my buddies are too. Let's get this draft started. Thanks for hanging out with us here at How to Barbecue Right. If you like what we're doing, subscribe to the channel. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Shell and I will talk about this draft party, hopefully how successful I am today on our weekly podcast. Y'all listen to that too. We'll see you next time. Good enough?